Yes, I want to welcome everyone to our weekly coalition meeting. Some of us have been hanging around here for years. It's almost like I don't know, a church experience, I'd say, for some of us. But our goal is to end homelessness, and we welcome everyone to our open table to do this together. We've had some good news over the past couple of weeks with the county and the city stepping up to do more than's been done, and our participation in making some of that happen, I think, is something we should be very happy about. We're going to hear several times today, we'll have several times today an opportunity to weigh in on the meaning of this open table in one way or another, asking who should be here, what should be done. So as a sociologist, I'm often thinking about questions of power and structure and belonging. And so I want to encourage us as we begin today to think about our own experience being here, what it means to us to belong, what we get from this time together, what would help us feel more connected, or that we might be able to use as ways to help other people who should be here participate more. So how's this open table working is kind of my question. And as we have this time to welcome new people, I'd like to invite anyone who's here for the first time or who's coming back after being away to just let us know you're here. And if you're associated with a group or organization or a project, to just name it rather than have any long explanation, so we can move into the rest of our work today. So if you're here for the first time, just unmute yourself and let us know you're here. Put your name in the chat and your contact information if you'd like to connect with somebody, and we'll see if we can get back to you then too. So anybody can begin.
Hi, my name is Kira Dobek. I am with Washington Trafficking Prevention. Been here before, returning. Good to see y'all.
Well, welcome back, Kira. We look forward to having your conversation with you.
Hi, my name is Barbara Aqua. I'm with Temple Bethel Tikkun Olam Committee. My first time here.
Well, welcome. We're very happy to have you here. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for those of you who've mentioned who you are. And if you're new and didn't get to do that, if you want to introduce yourself in the chat, we're happy to have your name there, and then we'll be able to get back to you if we'd like to contact you. So thank you. And Rob, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Rosemary. So let's get started as we do every Friday with our This Week on the Streets portion of the meeting. This is a portion set aside to allow some space for those who are doing direct outreach work with people who are currently homeless to offer updates about what they're seeing on the streets, what's changed, and any particular concerns that that we may be able to help as a coalition to solve. So I open the floor if anybody wants to offer what they're seeing on the streets this week.
Well, this will be my last report on the 38th Street encampment. 5 tents went over to the access road to 705 on Friday. They got swept out yesterday. I'm not sure where they all are. 2 of the tents I believe I saw up on 72nd on the small encampment up there. 4 tents went to Dozier Road. Found 1 tent down by the power station on Pacific. And that's it. They're all scattered.
Yeah, there was a lot of conversation about that camp, both online and at the city council study session this week. So thanks for tracking that, Jeffrey, and for your outreach to that community before it dispersed?
Well, I don't think the new folks here on G Street are necessarily coming from 38th, but we have a real influx, as we often do in the spring. And one of the things that's happening with folks, they're having a really hard time. People are having a hard time finding a place to repair their cars, and our street is flat and fairly friendly. So it looks as if we have a mechanic shop on the street. There are 6 cars in various degrees of unrest. And I just want to put it out here that it's something worth thinking about, trying to figure out a way where there is a place that people can do that kind of work with the materials they need, because most people can't afford to hire a mechanic. And if it's their home, I don't know, just putting it out there. It's not my skill set, but there you go.
Thank you, Teresa. Does anyone else have updates of what they've seen on the streets this week?
This is from the City Council Tacoma study session, where the report on the hygiene place, that NCS set up there at 8th and Yakima, I thought was very encouraging. It closes the 7th right now, but there has been a decrease in 311 calls to the area. There are no new tents visible. There has been an increase in 911 calls to the area, but many of those are for welfare checks. And the city did increase its garbage collection schedule to meet the need. And that was something that I had asked about. Would they adjust depending on need? And it sounds like they did. So that dispels, I think that's the first on the street data we have that will dispel the current sort of statement out there, which comes from People's Park, that it's impossible to do this. So I think that that's a good thing. I don't think it's a good thing it's ending. I don't think it's a good thing it's only in one place, but it does give us something of a new baseline.
And Maureen, correct me if I'm wrong, but during that study session, wasn't there some conversation about potentially continuing that for a while?
I don't know. I was focused on other parts.
I listened to that last night, and it sounded like they were considering what that would involve. So
I think, I think you're right. If you do nothing else outside of your regular job, listen to this one study session. It's about half an hour on the NCS report.
And thank you, Tegan, for weighing in on the chat, that there is a conversation to expand and continue the hygiene outreach and hygiene station there. So thank you, Tegan. Does anyone else have observations of what's happening on the streets this week? Carolyn, I see your question. We can provide a link to that study session audio. I don't know if we'll be able to do it right now during the meeting or not, but
it's in your inbox already, Carolyn, from yesterday, I think.
Yeah. All right. So not to belabor it, if there are additional things observations that you've made around the city and you want to share them, please do use the chat to do so. And we will move on to our first of what will be a series of reports on the work of the county's ad hoc committee. And Courtney, I'd invite you to offer an update of what happened in the first meeting.
Morning. Happy Friday, everybody. So the first meeting, we kind of spent a lot of time kind of going over what norms we were going to have as a group, talking about what data was needed in order to make informed decisions on what's coming next. And we went over kind of their outline of the action plan for the action plan. And so I'm going to give you kind of a brief rundown of what that is. So there's 3 stages for this action plan ad hoc committee. The first, not the ad hoc committee. There's 3 stages for the comprehensive plan. So the first one is to create the ad hoc committee. The second stage is the creating the action plan that will direct how the Pierce County Human Services develops the comprehensive plan. And that's due by September 24th. The action plan is due by April 24th. And then the stage 3 is the comprehensive plan, which lays out the plan for the county officials to consider, adopt, and fund. And so on the ad hoc committee, we are specifically working on the action plan, and they gave us kind of an outline, and we kind of discussed the outline of there's 8 steps to it. So over the next couple of weeks, we're going to be taking chunks of those 8 steps to create that action plan and have it done by April 24th. So next week we're going to be going over the overarching goals, definitions, and guiding principles, the comments on the scope, what it is and what it is not, and then the people groups to include and how. So when I spoke with Garrett after the meeting, that's kind of what we talked about, maybe having the Homeless Coalition focus on is the who needs to be at the table, right? That's kind of our takeaway from this, is that it's really important to get the right people at the table when we create this comprehensive plan. And so I was hoping to do some breakout groups, and I want to hear from the coalition. We want to hear from the coalition on who you think needs to be at that table to create this comprehensive plan to end homelessness, right? So people with lived experience, people in the maybe different systems, right? Like medical, education, prevention side, what are you thinking? Who do you think needs to be at the table? People of color, organizations of color, right? Outreach teams, people who are providers and work in this field, right? Because the county was very clear that they are not the experts in this and that they need the experts at the table. So now's our time to really do that and to bring that to them. So I'm hoping that what we could do is have the breakout rooms where everybody kind of discusses who they think is important to be at this table and to be in this conversation as we build this comprehensive plan. And then we will sift through those, synthesize it and bring it with us to the next meeting and really push for some of that. Also wanted to mention before we do the breakout rooms that there is a website. I'm going to post it in the chat. There's a website that they created that has everything on there. I think Maureen has already sent it out in the daily emails or weekly emails, but it's in the chat now, so you can use that link to look at everything that's happening for this ad hoc committee. And I believe this is probably going to be the same that they use for the comprehensive plan. Everything is public, the meetings are public. They also have a public comment section. So if you want to make a comment, or your organization wants to make a comment, you can do that on that website. And then from there, those will be acknowledged and looked at. And we as the ad hoc committee we're tasked with looking at those public comments before this session. And then we will discuss those and bring those to light in the session as well. So I really encourage you that if you feel strongly about something that needs to be a part of this, to advocate for that in that section. There's also a few plans that they did. There's documents on there. I keep circling my screen like I'm showing you the screen. Sorry. There's some documents on there that are the 5-year plan to end homelessness, ending veteran homelessness recommendations, and then the other plans and initiatives and the continuum of care plan timeline. So if you wanted to check out what those documents already are, you have not, those are on there as well. Yeah, but I mean, Garrett and I really feel like the Homeless Coalition has a breadth of knowledge that the county does not. And I know that I feel like we have some really great ideas of who needs to be at the table. So I'd really like to hear from you guys so we can bring that to the ad hoc committee.
Perfect. So Courtney, for the organizations that are brought to the table, do you know what that's going to look like, or is it too early to know how those people and organizations will actually be involved in informing the action plan?
I think so. They wouldn't be creating the action plan. We're talking about who needs to be involved to work on this comprehensive plan over the
Got
next
it.
6 months. Yeah.
Got it.
And then what that actually looks like, no, I cannot tell you at this time what that looks like, but that's a great question. And I'm sure that we will get to that when we go through these processes of the next 8 steps of, you know, to outline that, what that
Right.
plan needs.
Perfect. Welcome back, everyone. Hopefully that was a good conversation and you didn't get cut off too prematurely. My reminder to everybody is the note taker from each room, please drop your notes into the chat so that we can get those items to Courtney and Garrett. And Courtney, is there anything that you'd like to say to wrap up before we move along in the agenda?
I'm excited at the potential and the possibility of this. And every time I sit in a conversation where I hear more and more people coming to the table and having ideas about how to solve this, I have more and more hope around it. So I'm very excited to be at this table and really grateful that I was appointed this position and given this opportunity. I feel very blessed to be at this table. So I really appreciate all of you, and I'm excited to just start getting in there and doing the work. So
Thank you, Courtney. And thank you for being here and being willing to do this work. It's fantastic. So our next item on the agenda is I'll hand the floor over to Maureen Howard for an advocacy update, as if there's anything going on that we need to advocate for.
Yeah, fortunately, it's just really all quiet out there, and oh, here we go. All right, in case you missed things, I did send out an email sometime yesterday with this quick little survey in it. If you would please do that. Doesn't commit you to anything, just gives me an idea how to better manage what you need and are interested in from the policy and advocacy point. And it will help me stop flooding your inboxes, hopefully. So one of the things that I would like you to take a look at, Rob's going to stick it in the chat, and you can just, maybe we can screen share it for just a moment, Rob, the priorities for the American Rescue Plan. So it'll be in the chat, and then we'll screen share it just for a moment. Please take a look at that. Send me your comments and or put them in the chat so that next week we can bring something for a vote. Okay, this is the rescue plan. It's already passed, already signed, and the money is in some cases here. All right, now I worked off of, this is not for individuals. This is not like stimulus money. That's separate, the stimulus checks. This is the money that's big money that's coming. And so I looked at the money and I looked at our request list and from the summits, and I looked at eligibility for use of the money, and it just came up with some recommendations of how we can use this. And I am totally open to your changes or corrections. I will note that City of Seattle just came out this morning or last night with something called Seattle Compassionate or something like that. And they're asking for 2,000 new units for the City of Seattle. So I'm thinking 1,000 units for Pierce County wide is probably a pretty good number. So just please take a look and send me notes or put notes in the chat and scroll down a little bit. I followed the summit in terms of health and housing and services. Teresa, there's the car repair. If you want to increase that dollar figure or, however we do it. Anyway, if anybody sees anything that you absolutely cannot support or you think should be changed, please take care of this. Okay. So if you want to just take it off the screen, Rob, and then, all right. So here's where we are. The American Rescue Plan has within it $5 billion, like boys, for brand new housing vouchers through the public housing authorities. The law says that these vouchers must go to people experiencing homelessness, at risk for homelessness, or fleeing domestic violence. There are no allocations yet of these vouchers. The housing authorities do not know when they will receive their allocations. They have met across the country, and they are in conversation with HUD trying to get the Department of Housing and Urban Development, which is where these vouchers originate, trying to get clarification on a number of mostly technical things. Those of you who work with clients who have Section 8 or Housing Choice vouchers or VASH vouchers or whatever kind of vouchers you have through the housing authority for your client know your end. But the back office end of that is incredibly complicated for the housing authorities. And that's what they are sorting out. Now, I've met with Tacoma Housing Authority. I'll meet with Pierce County Housing Authority. I have asked for the following. One, that we have a priority for people below 30% AMI. That we get these folks who are have the lowest incomes, and also shared housing is eligible with these vouchers. Now, everybody may not want to do that because there'll be inspections and all of the housing voucher rules will apply, but that's a new eligibility, and that we will want to do that. And we want to know if those can be used in hotel rooms. Can they be used in mobile homes? How about pilots? Are there special projects that we'd like to try out? The Housing Authority already partners with some of you on special projects. And I didn't name any because I don't know what they all are, but that would be one thing. I asked if they could work something with Pierce County Housing Authority, and I'll ask the same of them, so that it's easy for providers, whether that's one portal or it's one web page, or I don't know what it is, but just so that it's as easy as possible on your end, working with your clients or your guests. And that obviously a race and equity lens, maybe even some new partnerships with nonprofits that the housing authorities haven't partnered with before. So again, if you have strong feelings about how these new vouchers should be used, please put it in the chat or email me separately. As soon as the housing authorities have their allocations, they'll let me know, and probably a lot of us, and I'll put something out on the listserv so that people who want to be involved in everything can. The second piece of money that's in there that's specific to homelessness is there are these homeless assistance grants, and these are going to follow federal home allocation process, but not the allocation formula. And so I don't know how those are coming yet. I just haven't had there's nothing on HUD about them yet. And there's nothing from the National Income Housing Coalition yet, but I'll follow up with Jeff Robinson with the city and Brian Schmidt with the county and see what they know. Again, these are coming with rules out of the federal legislation, one of which is acquisition of existing units. And so while everybody may not want to use federal money for acquisition, this is a real opportunity for those of you who do. And so here's the thing out of state of California, acquisition of existing units is 5 times faster and 3 times cheaper. All right, so if you saw the presentation on the 1/10 of 1% for the city of Tacoma, those new units, newly developed housing units are running anywhere from $250,000 up to $400,000 per unit. All right, we can't do that. We've got to bring units in underneath $100,000 a door, $100,000 a unit. The only way we do that is we acquire existing units. We use hotels and motels, and we use some apartment buildings that are starting to come online. So that's that part. The money, it's called relief, city and county relief money. And this is an enormous amount of money. There will be over $1 billion coming to local jurisdictions in Washington state through this part alone. It has wide eligibility for use, and even the town of Ruston is going to get some of this money. All right. I mean, that goes all the way down. I know that Lakewood is already talking about how they're going to use theirs, and Puyallup has a decent amount. It's coming by size. The city of Tacoma will have $63 million. They will get half of it by the May 10th. They will get the second half 1 year afterwards. The Pierce County will get about $175 million, half of it by May 10th, half of it the following year. So we want our eyes on that money. Let's see. Yeah, so that's it for the rescue plan. Again, put it in the chat or email me, all that sort of stuff. Now, on to the state. I'm going to leave this call early for a special meeting on 12/27, which is the document recording fee, which will, the increase in the document recording fee will fund permanent rental housing fund. It will fund operations and maintenance for permanent supportive housing and the landlord's fund. So what I need you to do is that I need to know that I've got a couple of people in all Pierce County districts. So either put it in the chat or email me or email Kevin. I want a couple of people from the 2nd, the 25th, the 26th, the 27th, the 28th, the 29th, the 30th, and the 31st. If you live and vote in those districts, that's who I'm looking for. If you work in those districts, that's okay. Just make a note that you work, you're not a voter there. So that if we need to get to people really fast, I've got names and email addresses to get to. Let's see, 12/20, 12/20 is an executive session now in Senate Ways and Means. This is what adds shelters to the Growth Management Act, that they would have to be part of the eligible uses. The local jurisdictions have to plan for placement of shelters. 5160 Cooter's bill, which is basically the right to counsel, basically for tenants, that passed out of committee, passed the House last night. Is that possible? That's what my notes say. Anyway, Just Cause 1236 is in Senate rules. And what else do I know? Money. Okay, quickly, the city and the county. I sent out the link from Tegan. Thank you, Tegan. Can't thank you enough for sending that link to us so that it's easy for everybody to click on and see the Neighborhood and Community Services report on the City Council study session on Tuesday. And there was one thing in there that is of concern to many of us, and that is the city has identified a site which would be a large, they're calling it a mitigation or stabilization site. That is not what we want. Our requests from the summit are very clear. We want small, safe, sanctioned encampments, 20 to 40 people max. And so we will be in conversations with the city about that going forward. The 1/10 of 1% affordable housing tax passed unanimously in council. Thanks to everybody who worked on that. And that money starts being collected in July. It turns into real money, I think, by December. There's a process of stakeholders being engaged in creating a spending plan. The council will approve an overall spending plan. They will not approve project by project going forward. And so we were on the initial group of stakeholders. I presume we still are. And again, it'll be a matter, I think, of setting our priorities, that the people, I mean, this is me, but the people that are never on the table are those below 30% AMI. And I just believe we've got to use every resource available, and we are never going to have this kind of money again unless the next Biden bill passes. If the infrastructure bill passes, there's $231 billion, as in boy, dollars for housing in that infrastructure bill. But that's got a long haul on it. Let's see, with the county, we've got Courtney's report on the ad hoc committee. I thank the county for doing what we asked, which was to make the process public, and they did that. And for the Revenue for Housing, Carolyn Reed and crew, who got their comments in really fast. And that made the county had to create a way to accept public comments right away. So, so that's a good thing. What else? The county, I'm sure when Valerie comes to talk, hopefully we'll have an update on the dashboard on the rental assistance program. Seems like that should be up. And as always, I want to encourage the county to now start including, if they haven't, forward rent for people experiencing homelessness who have a willing landlord and a lease. As I mentioned, Seattle has just announced Seattle Compassion, which is apparently it's a provider and business group. And they will bring something to the vote of the people in November. And I don't have any more details on it. So this is what I have. If you have questions. Yeah, Colin.
I would just say to echo what Maureen said about the kind of the large mitigation style, stabilization style camp that the city is talking about. If you have any interest, I have to hop off at some point here, but if you have any interest in being involved with that conversation, we will be dedicating time in our every Monday noon meeting around safe parking. So now be safe parking and really that managed encampment or encampment conversation. So please feel free to join us. You can reach out to me, you can reach out to Jan, you can reach out to anybody and get on it. So yeah, we would love to have you. Thank you, Maureen.
You're most welcome. And when Tegan reports later or Clarissa, one of the points from the study session about the 5-year homeless strategy that's being developed out of NCS, out of Linda Stewart's the director of Neighborhood and Community Services, and Tegan has been working with us on that project. There were statements by NCS staff about outreach to people experiencing homelessness. And so I think that's something that we will want more information on, how the outreach is being done and the questions that are being asked. And, you know, are NCS staff doing this? This is not a critique. These are just questions. Are people in every encampment or only the downtown ones, or just kind of what's the process on that? So, because that's all information that is public domain information and will be of help to us on the greater countywide comprehensive plan going forward. So, anybody else?
One question I have, Maureen, maybe you can shed some light. What's the best opportunity for individual members of the coalition now to actually advocate? Are there still opportunities make a difference with state legislation? How would people prioritize their time?
I think part of it depends on your organization's advocacy policy. So and only you know that. You always have a right as an individual to advocate, except feds have special requirements. But everybody else, you always have an individual right to advocate. But my caution is use your personal email address, use your personal technology. If your organization allows you to advocate, or if you are the person who does that, wonderful. So there are opportunities at the state level, and they come pretty fast. And what I've been doing is forwarding the Washington Low Income Housing Alliance. They generally have a big red button you can click on. You can always email your representatives directly, but this is like sausage right now. And so it's being careful, everything's carefully negotiated so that bills can get through the process, because now we are against time. So that's one thing. If you have not developed a relationship with your state legislators, do that, all right? So we had 3 Republicans vote, cross the aisle and vote in a bipartisan way on bills that are our bills. We had Senator Gilden from Puyallup, we had Representative Caldier from the 26th, and we had Representative Barkas. Is he a senator? Representative. Oh, This is embarrassing. Anyway, Barkus from the 2nd. Not my district, so if I don't have it in front of me, I'm in bad shape. Anyway, apologize for the wrong designation, but and I'm sure that was due to people like you who reached out and said, this is what this bill means for the people that we care about. And all of that education just has to keep going on. If we've got people of goodwill who maybe don't share all of our values, but are willing to take in new information, then that is important. The other thing is at the federal level, so we will, as a coalition, remember in the summit, we had videos from our 4 congressional representatives, and we've got a liaison with the 2 senators. So we will circle back with them just to try and let them know where we are as a result of the summit and things, and to encourage them to go forward on this infrastructure bill. This infrastructure bill would make the difference for people that we care about, because those are going to be jobs. There are going to be a lot of union jobs in there. There are going to be a lot of living wage jobs in there. And so, and you know, all I got to do is look around at the state of the bridges and the roads and know that we got, you know, plenty of work to do. Then locally, we're really lucky that our city and county council members are very accessible. And so reach out, develop a relationship. If you haven't had time to do that, do it. And always, you know, they're like 3 parts, you know, thank you. This is what's right or what's wrong, or please reconsider whatever, or here's information you need to know about this certain aspect, you know, whatever it is the issue is. And how can I be of help? Please let me know. And you'd be amazed at how many times we send a thank you. This probably happens to you. We send a thank you for a vote, and we get back, not only you're welcome, but I'd like to talk to you about X sort of stuff. So, and the same thing with the staff, develop relationships with the staff. These are not, I mean, the councils are supposed to set policy, the staff are supposed to implement policy. And so they have different roles, and it's, so it's not one against the other. It's what we've tried to do with the coalition is we've tried to keep those lines open. So if we're communicating with the council, we try and communicate with the staff who handle that issue at the same time. So everybody knows where we stand on something. So, and part of it is just, frankly, it's personal. It's what excites you. Some people get really excited about federal level, some people state level, some people local. Look at the structures. In the city of Tacoma, every neighborhood has a neighborhood council. All right. We should have somebody on every neighborhood council in the city of Tacoma. I don't know how the county organizes, but you got umpteen small cities, and we should have, look at how the League of Women Voters does things, how they organize having people attend meetings or watch meetings and report on meetings. And so it's the same thing. What's important to you? Every school district has a school board. Every community jurisdiction has got some sort of economic development board. You want to find out where things are going to happen, follow economic development. So anyway, okay, that's magic moment.
Thanks, Maureen.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
All right, so I'd like to invite Paula Anderson from the Puyallup area, New Hope, to talk about the work that's being done by the Puyallup Homeless Coalition. So I hand the floor over to you, Paula. And you're on mute right now. There you go.
Sorry about that. Okay. Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me here this morning to talk about the Puyallup Homeless Coalition and some of the issues that are existing in Puyallup. I thought maybe I'd start with the beginning. So I honestly don't know when the beginning was of the Puyallup Homeless Coalition. I do know that there was a small group of service providers that met kind of under the radar, led by Sister Pat of St. Francis House, which has been around almost 50 years now in this Puyallup area, maybe more. and then some staff from Open Hearth when that agency started up, or that ministry started up. I know that there were people on it at that time as well. Over the course of the year, time frame, more people have joined, but I do believe it's been around since about 2000, maybe a little bit earlier than that. In about 2007, a couple of people that were on that committee, so Charlene Hamblin with Sharon Care House, has been around for a long time, was on the coalition for a long time. She and Ted Brockman and a couple other people put together a nonprofit called Homeward Bound in Puyallup. The reason that was developed was so that there was an administrative structure over the Ministry of Open Hearth to be able to come to, because they serve just basically families in Puyallup area. And then also for Freezing Nights, which had come around at that time. We wanted to have some sort of administrative structure. When I joined the Puyallup Homeless Coalition, it was about 2009. Lots of energy around trying to help the homeless in Puyallup. The biggest agency that was well known, not even an agency, but ministry, was the Freezing Nights ministry that was started by the churches about 18 years ago. So they needed a place to kind of have administrative structure as well, so that donations could be taken to one place and distributed and used appropriately, and that type of thing. In 2011, the Puyallup Homeless Coalition, which was also in the development of that 501c3 called Homeward Bound in Puyallup, went together with the coalition and Homeward Bound, and we created kind of our own Project Homeless Connect, if you will, something in that realm, because there were not services in Puyallup area, as many as there are in Tacoma in that area. So we gathered together a bunch of different service providers, went to the War Memorial, which is interesting because we're not allowed to use that now for any kind of homeless services so far. I know Mike Boisher has been trying for years to get us into a location in there during inclement weather. But just to give you an example of what we pulled together on that, we were able to provide medical services, free food, the clothing, bringing the different service providers there. And also we joined with the Puyallup School District, and as part of the advertising, if you will, for what was going on, we had school children draw on paper plates faces of kids, because at that time there were over 100 children that had self-identified as being homeless, or their families being homeless. So we literally had 100 stakes and 100 of these paper plates put up in the yard or in the grassy area around the Memorial Center to get some interest in what we were trying to tell people, which was that there are a lot more people homeless in Puyallup and in our area than anyone in the community might understand, including families and children. So moving forward to 2013, we created, through the Homeless Coalition, a comprehensive 5-year plan to end homelessness. Imagine that. We had participants on that. We had several meetings with different organizations and people in the community, which included 3 of our current Pierce County Council members, Bruce Dammeyer, Hans Eiger, and Chris Beal, all provided input for this comprehensive plan. And then it was presented to the City Council. From that, from 2013 to 2014, the city had a community task force that had participants, 1 participant at a time from Homeward Bound in Puyallup. And then the Chief Jeter, who was the chief of police at that time, city officials. And so they came together to try and decide of the strategic plan, basically what kind of solutions they might look at, or ways that they might be able to do some of these things. They came up with, one of the strategies that they came up with was to have a day center, because at the time they were receiving a lot of complaints about the Freezing Nights ministry, in that they were happy to see people off the street, but it was the time period when they were released, which is 7 a.m. every morning that Freezing Nights was operating. Folks that were in that program were then released onto the street. And so that was a big area of contention, along with where are they going to meet in order to be picked up to be taken to the Freezing Nights ministry for overnight sleeping. So there was just a bunch of buzz about that. So the city had actually put on there, maybe you need a day center, which was all we needed to look at, because we didn't even put that on our original thing, that the comprehensive plan. It was more like a combination, like Nativity House, of a night shelter and day center. So a group of church people that participated in the Puyallup Homeless Coalition in 2014 went out and found 414 Spring Street, which was an old Domino's building. That is currently where New Hope Resource Center is located. And that's how New Hope was born. The churches and individuals put together $40,000 in 2 days for a down payment on this property to get us in there. That's how serious people were about trying to find a day center. We had a sweet honeymoon period with the city for about maybe 3 or 4 months, and then things started to kind of unravel. There was, because we were located in the place that we were located, it was highly visible as to how many adult homeless we had in the Puyallup area. We were right next to a business, a beauty salon, and they were not happy with having a homeless shelter right next door to them. I can understand some complaints on that. Out of that birthed the negative Clean Up Puyallup Facebook page that then just was bombarding our community with negative things about the homeless, about what New Hope was trying to do, about any of the services that pertain to helping adult homeless. And so we battled through that. Also out of that, because of all the rhetoric, if you will, from that Facebook page, came a lot of response from the city council, which then ended up initiating with Homeward Bound and the city litigation to the tune of about 4 lawsuits. So currently in the city of Puyallup, they're taking the most steps I've ever seen them take. They are had the motel in effect right now, where they're sheltering 20 people at a time that are adult homeless, trying to find ways to put them into a more permanent, stable living situation. They are not really asking too much help from New Hope, and I think that is because of the litigation. We have a lot of knowledge about the people that they're trying to help, and so that feels like a little bit like we're clipping the wings of the social workers that are actually working with them from CCS, but things are happening, and we continue to provide whatever services we can and work with them. So right now, the Puyallup Homeless Coalition, we're not necessarily a political activist group. I think over the course of the years, when we were stepping into that, we were being kind of led by a couple of very strong advocates in that arena. There was people stepping back from there because the heat got a little too hot when the city started, creating some opportunities for us to provide litigation. So I'm really chopping that up, but you guys can understand what I'm trying to say. And so I think we lost, especially some of the agencies that work with families and children that are in the area, not all of them, but we don't have participation in the Homeless Coalition meeting with that because they never really had the city have issues with what they were doing. It was all directed towards adult homeless. And so the fact that the city is now partnering with the county, that they have put this together and partnering with CCS is a fantastic step forward. I am praying and hoping that they will continue that program. And as that program goes, my hope is that the city is more educated on homeless issues and on the work that other service providers do and how we network and we all work together, because it takes all of us to be able to remove the barriers and stabilize and house people no matter what their needs are. So I'm super excited about that. I wish I was able to participate a little bit more, but maybe that's a good thing. I think it's an opportunity for City of Puyallup to work with another agency that has a wonderful track record for doing all the kinds of social services that we do here at New Hope, and then some. So we have several people in this group here that are either live in the city limits of Puyallup or have businesses in Puyallup. And so many of them participate in the Homeless Coalition. And at this particular time, if any of you would like to participate in the Puyallup Homeless Coalition, I'll put my email in the chat and you're able to call or to email me and I can put you on the list. We meet once a month, the second Tuesday of the month from 9 to 10:30 usually. And then Rob had asked, what can we do, or what can this committee do, this coalition do to help us here in Puyallup? I guess I would say the biggest thing is when you get a chance to speak to somebody who either lives in Puyallup, does business in Puyallup. Sorry, you can tell we're by the train tracks. I don't know if you guys can hear that or not. If you know anybody that is in this area and might have some false information about homelessness, about those that are experiencing homelessness, just do your best to talk to them and share your story and share stories of people that you serve. I believe that probably 60% of the population in Puyallup is just kind of on the fence. I think we're like a lot of other towns that are not suddenly, but have over the course of the year experienced more and more people with who are unhoused. And I think it's important that people understand who these folks are and that they're not all drug addicts or people that are going to rob you blind or all of those things that we know that are some of those prejudices that can be thrown at the folks that we serve. So anything you all can do on that respect. I enjoy being a part of this. This keeps me informed at a higher level of what is going on. And I think that is super important. And as far as the county and other groups getting the city of Puyallup involved in doing this, thank you, thank you, thank you. Because that is the only way that we're going to be able to educate. So I appreciate that.
Thank you for the update, Paula. And how many folks participate in your monthly meetings right now?
So right now we probably have 10 to 12 that are on the email list. We typically get, it went down. We did have people from other agencies. For example, when CLR had a contract with the city of Puyallup and was working to talk with the businesses in Puyallup about homelessness and helping to remove people from in front of the buildings and that type of thing. We had a lot of participation from them, the veterans and the like, and DSHS, the school district participates now on a regular basis, but DSHS can't because of their computer system. So I just have to do a direct call to them. They used to come when we were in person, then they didn't have to use their computer. So yeah, once we get to back in person, I think we'll have more. But right now, we're a very solid, strong 10 to 12 people.
Great. I see that Maureen has her hand up.
So Paula, the county worked with the city to make possible that shelter in Puyallup, but the state of Washington had the money in the budget. That's the shelter expansion money, folks. It's in the capital budget again this year. So when the word comes out to advocate for $40 million for shelter expansion, you all remember what Paula said and what a difference that made. So kudos to the county for making this happen. But it was the state of Washington legislators that got the money in the capital budget, and we're asking for it again. And now we're asking for 70 million in addition for acquisition of hotels and motels. So yeah. So everybody remember Paula's story about the difference that money made.
Yeah. Thank you, Maureen.
Money helps. So anybody else with questions or comments before we move on to government updates? All right, so thank you for joining us again, Paula, and for the overview and your perspective on what's happening on the ground in Puyallup. So let's shift gears over to, well, I guess it's related, to talk about government updates. We will start with the city of Tacoma, and I'm not sure if I saw Clarissa on the call, but
so I'll present. Rob.
Okay, great. Thank you, Tegan.
Yeah, absolutely. It's good to see everybody. It's been some really great conversations today. So the things I want to highlight is that obviously we're still working on this 5-year strategic plan. I appreciate Maureen highlighting some questions about that, about our outreach to persons with lived experience. Because I was going to ask for volunteers. If anybody wants to support this process, we're still in the works of it and getting it, get it going. We've developed a survey that will be able to be done on a mobile phone. There'll be a QR code, so if you want to hand it or give it to people to do on their phones as well. We're hoping to keep it brief in the terms of demographics, and at the same time have a lot of space to hear someone's actual story. Because we realize that there's a lot said in a nuance of stories that you hear and you pick up needs that people are having. So this is still being developed. I know that people have reached out to me before to support this process, and I will be reaching out to you, but I want to make that call again if there's other individuals that want to support this and be a part of it. So please reach out to me. I'll put my email in the chat box. I know earlier we heard about the ad hoc committee, so I won't go into that tons. We do have representation sitting on that. So Clarissa Monteros is sitting on that for the city. Next, so I already sent the link to a study session. Please review that. If you have questions, please reach out to us and we can talk more about that. Also, which was brought up earlier, was the temporary mitigation stabilization site. So I hear what you're saying. I've already taken notes of it. We were hoping to set some engagement time to talk about it more in depth with the community. Those are still being developed, and I can share those when we have them. The city funded temporary and emergency shelter sites. We have performance up on our website, so you can look at that. We post it weekly, usually Monday. We wait till we get all the data. It's supposed to be Monday, but sometimes we get a little bit later and it's Tuesday, but we're trying to really streamline that process too, to make sure that it is responsive and fast. I will also put that link in the chat box for everybody. Also stated earlier was the warming shelter at the Salvation Army. So that temporary warming center will be extended through the end of April. We have been working with them, and so they currently have been serving about 29 people daily. And like I said, and that'll be operating until April 30th of this month. Again, I know we also discussed, you guys did a lot of this update for me a little bit. So the hygiene station at 8th and Yakima is going to hopefully be continued. We're talking about it, we're exploring it. The pilot provides restrooms, hand washing stations, overnight security, and again, garbage and trash debris collection. As we shared in study session, we haven't seen an increase in tents. There's been a decrease in 311 calls, and the 911 calls have been a little uptick, and that's been for welfare checks. So we'll be returning to study session next week to discuss that project a little more in depth as well. I know the county will explain this a lot more, but again, I'm going to highlight our collaboration with them with the rental assistance program. The portal is still open. So I will provide that link as well, unless Valerie beats me to it. I think those are the majority of my updates at the moment.
Great, Tegan. Thank you. Let's move over to Valerie and let her talk about Pierce County updates.
Good morning. Yes, saw in the chat about Puyallup. So great news. Puyallup vaccinated everyone in their hotels yesterday, and they were doing anyone else who was interested from Sharon Care House and Helping Hand House. So that's fantastic news. And then in phase 2, they actually opened up. They're at the park from 9 to 4 today, vaccinating anyone who shows up who's experiencing homelessness or incorporates or goes to a congregate setting for like food banks. And so just a big shout out to Puyallup, because that was a big lift to get that done. And we have actually connected with them with Jenny to learn how they did it so we can replicate for a lot of the same things. And I'm sure Jenny will give an update on vaccines, but every shelter is set to be vaccinated in Tacoma, rest of Pierce County here very soon. So great news there. So rental assistance, we have over 12,000 applications started. That is of anyone who's registered. We did see about 900 folks who are outside Pierce County. And so we're slowly cleaning those out, but now we have implemented a new requirement where if you're not in Pierce County, you can't start the application. But you know, they kind of snuck through when we first started. So 12,000 applications, right at 5,200 have completed submitted applications. So all documents are up there, and every one of our 9 providers are up running. Contracts are fully enforced and checks are already being cut. My understanding from one provider is they spent just under $400,000 in a week. So dollars are getting out the door very quickly. We are in collaboration, as Tegan said, with the city of Tacoma. So the city received their own funding, and they are actually going through our portal for some of their referrals, and they've allotted a set amount of dollars for TPU. So TPU has a huge chunk of past dues in their program. And so what we are doing, as all of our providers are able to draw down from that TPU bucket, and that extends our funding to go to additional rent and utilities for everyone else throughout the county. So just a big shout out, City of Tacoma and Pierce County. I feel like I talk to Allison 3 times a day. So we are just really trying to collaborate as best we can and get everyone in Pierce County served. For the portal update, Maureen, yes, we are still working on it. It will absolutely be on the website. I personally promise. What I don't want is to put it up there and then wish we had thought of something else, or put it up there and the data's not right. We had a issue with our vendor where people were registering as white or African American, and the portal was changing folks to Asian Pacific Islander. And so we are going through line by line and correcting and checking race and gender demographics, because that's just not something we're willing to put out as bad data. So working through that, and as soon as it's up and running, we are going to report on number of applicants served, number of applicants received. We're going to report on all the race demographics, the veteran status, the age breakdown, and their region for the hotspots. And that's going to be how we really change how we can work through who is applying and change our outreach techniques. In the last week, we have printed and sent out over 7,000 of our flyers. We have flyers in 5 languages. So if you are in need of any flyers, let me know and we will get them printed for you and sent to your organization. Goodwill's doing a big event tomorrow, and we sent them 600 flyers to hand out. But that is just part of our outreach. We also sent it to every single school district. Bethel School District sent it to 30,000 households in one day. And so that's huge. And so we're just trying to make sure we're hitting all the marks. Food banks have told us how many flyers they think they can hand out. So we have mailed them all their flyers, so that we're just trying to be responsive and meet those needs. I know Heather and Central Latino will be on VT radio here very soon, doing a commercial to really get the word out about the services and what we can and can't do. And then we're just pushing forward. What I heard last week from the state, we're currently the only program up and running, which is mind-blowing to me. But every other rental assistance program is expected to start sometime end of April, early May, which to me explains why so many folks are applying for Pierce County, because they can't apply in their county yet. So just pushing through. We still have it on the list for homeless households. We're still having that conversation, Maureen. We are also still having conversation about whether or not we can pay vacant units. So a tenant has moved due to COVID. Can we pay their past dues? The Treasury originally said yes, and then in a recent meeting, they were like, we don't know what that looks like yet. So we're holding on that until Treasury. We don't want to start doing it and make people pay money back, right? So we are keeping a list of landlords who are contacting us about vacant units, and we'll reach out and we'll do specific flyers if that rule changes. So just pushing through. We know more money's coming down the pipeline, which makes my blood like pressure go all the way through the roof for a hot minute. But the need is definitely there, and we'll just keep pushing until we get it done. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
All right, I'm not seeing any questions yet. If folks have follow-up questions, do feel free to put them in the chat, because Valerie will be right on top of that. So let's shift to our next updates, which would be from the Tacoma-Pierce County Health Department. Rihanna, do you have anything to update before we go into the presentation from Jenny about vaccines?
Just a couple things. I'll let Jenny go into most of it, shelters and encampment planning. But the health department is in the planning some static sites around the county. And so they're going to be in some different areas and running probably about 3 days out of the week. And so these are not pop-up. They're going to be just static and in place and ongoing. So look for that in the near future. Phase Finder is going away. We won't be using that to determine eligibility anymore. So it's the honor system. So when you see registration, sign up and get vaccinated. On April 15th, it's open season. Everybody is eligible in Washington State. So that's great news. And then I'm gonna put our webpage in the chat, and you'll find lots of stuff here on our vaccine webpage. And also when we have clinics, the registration links pop up on our webpage. And so you can register here. There's vaccine data, FAQs, just everything. So I'll put that there. And then to replace the Phase Finder, Washington has a vaccine locator tool. And so I'll post the link to that in the chat also. And I just wanted to say, like, I see a few of my friends on this meeting and they're doing other things, but it's great to see them in here doing work with the county and things like that. So I think it's super cool.
Thanks, Rihanna. I see Kevin has his hand up with a question.
Yeah, thanks, Rob. Rihanna, when you say everybody's eligible now, what's the lower end of the age limit? Because I've been getting confused.
Okay.
16 and up, right?
Yes, depending on the 16 and older, and then I'll let Jenny differentiate between the vaccines and the age group, because I don't have it up right now here. So
perfect. Well, that's a great lead in to Jenny's presentation. So if we're ready, let's go ahead and shift over there.
Sure. Hi, everybody. I know this is going to sound terrible after a year or more of doing these virtual meetings, but I've never shared a screen slide presentation in Zoom. So I'm going to try that now. And you can let me know if you see
voila
the slide.
Yeah, it works.
Okay. And do you see my face as well, or can I turn myself off so that you don't have to see me at the same time?
That's optional on our end. It's
okay,
fine.
Cool.
It's kind of for folks who have hearing disabilities. It's great to be able to still see your face.
Okay, good. You won't mind if you see me reading some of my notes. I'll do my best. All right. So thank you, everybody. Thanks for having me back. I was here probably a month or two ago, and Rihanna updates you every week, but I'm glad to be here to talk to folks. My name's Jenny Sheppy. I'm a health promotion coordinator at the health department. My focus the last couple months has been helping to helping plan our vaccine rollout to people experiencing homelessness and those serving them. And I've been working with internal colleagues here, including Rihanna, one of our awesome community liaisons, working very closely with Valerie and many other community partners, including some of our coalition members here. So what I'd like to do today, and I tried to pare these slides down from a larger presentation. Please feel free to reach out if your questions at the end here don't get answered, but I'd like to just give a high level summary of our approach, what's happening now and what we're planning. We'll have time for some questions, but again, just email, reach out to me. The last slide will have my information on it and I can put it in the chat as well. So Rihanna just highlighted this. So eligibility, basically bottom line, everyone working in this setting and everyone who's experiencing homelessness is eligible now as of 2 days ago. And then on the 15th of April, it's open season. So we encourage folks to get vaccinated now if you're in this eligibility track before it opens to everyone. So if you need help with that, we are here to help you. The link here, I think, is the same one Rihanna just shared. She mentioned Phase Finder is obsolete. And that's what we know right now. We're just rolling with it every single day, sometimes by the hour. So I want to share a set of sort of overarching principles that are guiding our work. We are humble. We make mistakes all the time. We're happy to learn from all of you and all the other service providers, but we're basically trying to understand the need by looking at data, talking to the people doing the work to understand where the need is and how great the need is, applying community-informed approaches to vaccine delivery, including the use of mobile teams to meet people where they're at. And Garrett asked me to explain that just a little bit, so I'll go into that when I finish going through this. Trying to reduce barriers and maximize efficiency. So we're bringing the Janssen, also known as the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, to this population. We've prioritized that as a health department. We're advocating to DOH to make sure we can get that. We're also making sure most of our events will be no registration required and vaccinating everyone on site when we go to a site. Working with community engagement to address education concerns and other communication concerns. Collaborating with our federally qualified health centers, our FQHC partners like CMAR and CHC, and Pierce County Health Human Services to streamline things so that we're not duplicating efforts. We're meeting regularly with service providers on a weekly basis, sometimes twice weekly basis, to hear feedback, using the trusted messenger approach and trusting the experts in this area, trying to be as flexible as we can and communicate with as much transparency as possible. And we appreciate your patience because, as I said, things change all the time. So we're always balancing wanting to communicate with folks, but not having to walk something back the next hour. So that's a tricky balance sometimes. For folks that don't understand the term mobile teams, I use that a lot. Mobile team is a group of medical personnel that bring vaccines to a community where they're at. It consists, there's lots of strict guidelines around things, and COVID-19 is no different. For us, it involves someone administering vaccine, one or more people administering vaccine, someone managing the vaccine, and someone documenting, doing consent forms, entering data into the required Washington State immunization surveillance system. So that's what that would look like when I say mobile teams, and we're partnering with others, obviously. So I realize I don't talk to you all the time, and it may feel like a lot of stuff is behind the scenes, but there's been a lot of work happening. I have been honest with the fact that I'm new to this landscape. I'm new to the world of serving folks living homeless. And so I've been just trying to learn, meet with people internally and externally. We're meeting regularly with shelter providers, managers, and outreach teams like those at TRM and Nativity House, smaller shelters, outreach teams like Comprehensive Life Resources in Greater Lakes and New Hope, trying to push out vaccination event opportunities through various means. Again, partnering with Human Services, Pierce County very, very closely, as well as the community health partners, providing vaccine education, and continuing to try and solicit feedback from folks whenever we can. This plan that I'm sharing today was actually shared and vetted by a key group of the shelter and service providers, and has been, their feedback has been incorporated as well. Okay, so let's get into what you want to know. So what this is, I'm going to go through like what we're doing for shelters and other housing sites, so static sites, and then talk about our plans for addressing the unsheltered folks as well. So the process I've gone through is identifying key contacts, reaching out and determining who's interested in having an event on site, because not everyone wants to for certain reasons, understanding space, capacity, just any sort of considerations that we should be looking at. Identifying other partners that we can work with so we're not duplicating efforts. And then I made sort of an initial prioritization to bring to our mobile teams folks based on size, congregate setting, vulnerable populations, and also outbreak status. So whether a shelter, where a shelter had a recent outbreak, they were prioritized to get an event sooner rather than later. Proposing events to the mobile teams, working with them with our logistics and planning. As you can imagine at the department, we've got all kinds of different teams. And then continuing to liaise between our teams and those site managers to kind of make sure that these things are run efficiently and successfully. So what is happening? Valerie mentioned this. I'm really excited to share that we have several events planned in the next 2 weeks. Folks we've gotten some questions, even internally, like, why isn't this happening sooner? And we really listened to shelter folks tell us that the first 10 days might not be a good time for shelter events. We also are working with mobile teams who are still working hard to vaccinate adult family homes, long-term care centers. So all those other vulnerable communities that you're aware of. So lots of stuff coming up. This is a living, breathing document. I actually heard back from another provider this morning right before I got on this call. So we'll be adding an event. And our wonderful friends at Tacoma Rescue Mission and CCS have invited others who are unable to host, but would like to have this kind of access to attend events at their sites. This next slide isn't super pertinent, but just shows that, you know, we know that City of Puyallup is doing efforts in some other areas. We're connecting Salvation Army folks to hopefully to an event at TRM or another, and then trying to connect with others with either an event or getting them connected with all the other community resources we have. So if you don't see a name here, or you just want to reach out to me and say, hey, have you connected with so-and-so? Please feel free. I'm not an expert. With Valerie, we've made a pretty wide reach and cast the net wide, but please don't hesitate to reach out. So next, this is just the process that we are kind of getting into, really getting in the dirt with this, with working with outreach teams for looking at where folks are unsheltered in encampments and otherwise. So we have had some great strategy conversations recently, and that work is really moving along, identifying a lead for each of the community outreach teams, understanding where they go, who they serve, what their capacity is, how we can plug in. We're currently mapping things out with the help of the outreach teams so that we can look at both where we should be going if appropriate. And when I say we, I mean in conjunction with the FQHC partners, CMAR, CHC, potentially other health systems partners, and where it's more appropriate to bring people to us. So if there's a location that makes sense to bring several known encampment areas to us, we are listening to the experts and trying to map out a plan that makes sense there. So this is all in process. Another thing I just want to let people know, and I apologize if people know this, but you'll hear people talk about enrolled providers, and we would love nothing more than to say to the outreach teams, go out and do this. You have an RN, go do it. Let us know how we can help. But with vaccines, there has to be an enrolled provider through DOH that is on that site or in that environment to deliver the vaccine as well as manage it. So that's why TPCHD, CMAR, CHC, other health systems partners need to partner and kind of go out with outreach teams, as well as obviously we understand that they are the trusted folks in the community. And so we're not going to be like, hey, we're the government, we're here to help. So that's kind of the plan right now. Other great work going on, CMAR and CHC. CHC vaccinated and is continuing to vaccinate folks at CCS stability sites and Holiday Inn Express, which is awesome. CMAR is using their existing infrastructure to continue to work with folks experiencing homelessness. And we partner with them because we have some power to get them allocation of vaccine that they need to advocate with the state. Pharmacy partnerships are happening. You may know that some folks who are 65 plus last month got vaccinated. Valerie worked with Luis and with Safeway to get that done, which was awesome. City of Puyallup been talked about already. Rihanna mentioned static sites that we will keep you informed about. And of course, there's always health systems vaccine clinics and the Department of Emergency Management run mass vaccine clinics, which folks are always welcome to go to, but we understand there are barriers to that. And that's why we're trying to have a multi-pronged approach. So we're just going to continue to plan events. We are going to continue to work with, I'm going to continue to liaise between my teams internally and site managers to make sure these events are successful. And we're going to continue to, we're working with Coalition, working with Garrett and Kevin to see if we can provide some goodies at the shelter sites. And if that's not possible, we'll work with others to bring, food and coffee and things like that. And Valerie and I, along with Rihanna's support, are just going to continue to work on the outreach angle, helping support the outreach teams. And we'll document those plans and bring them to folks for input, of course. That is it from me. I welcome your feedback and questions. I'll let Rob say how much time we have. You can always email me or call me if you don't get your question answered.
Yeah, we have a little bit of time. So if you could stop your screen share.
Yeah, I will do.
And then we can see if folks have questions. We are running a little over on the agenda, but we'll work that out. So don't worry about it. If you have questions, please ask them now. I see Janet with her hand up.
Tacoma Fire Department has a transport van. And are you enlisting them in, like when Salvation Army can't host, who will bring those folks to a site?
Great question, Jan. Thank you for asking that. I have not been in touch with them, but I am aware of that as a transportation resource. Also are great, the managers at the sites have stepped up and offered to bring their own folks to another site. But we will definitely be offering community resources to lessen the burden there. So thank you for the reminder about, I think that's something I had spoken with about with Garrett previously and having all my notes about transportation, but thanks for that reminder. Yeah, thank you. Anyone else?
Teresa?
This is just a shout out. Several weeks ago, I was saying there are a lot of elders who can't manage the technology. And then really soon after that, some of my older neighbors had someone knock on their door and sign them up for a vaccine. That's very, I'm just very impressed that, I don't know if that was the health department who was engineering that, but it was a wonderful thing to do. So thank you.
Thank you, Teresa, for bringing that up. And I didn't want to share too many slides and talk too much today, but if you ever have questions or know of anyone who needs to be connected, and it's not sufficient, to go to the website and look for events, we have a call center at TPCHD. Rihanna or I would be happy to connect folks to actually help do the registration, or those folks can do that as well. I might ask Rihanna, well, I don't know if she'll have the number right off the top of her head, but I can share that with the group as well. So thanks.
Fantastic. So any last questions for Jenny before we move on to our next item?
I see.
Well, thank you so much, Jenny,
Rob.
Yeah, no problem. Did you see something in the chat?
I saw one more question from Jeanette about how are you reaching the home challenged on Hilltop? Individual and small encampments on streets and corners. Great question. And that is part of the work we're trying to do now as quickly but as thoroughly as possible, is to map out where folks are at and to work with those outreach teams that already have made those connections and have those relationships. So we're going to do the best we can. We know things move around. That's the nature of some of this. And if you have any concerns about specific areas, you can feel free to reach out to me or Valerie and send us that information so we make sure that we're looking for that. Thanks. Sorry to interrupt, Rob.
No, no problem at all. All right. So thank you very much for taking the time to make sure we're informed about this and hear our concerns. The next item, 2 items on the agenda, we may end up kind of melding into one since we're running a little short on time. So I'll hand the floor over to Kevin to talk about the work that's been being done around formalization of the coalition and discussions about meeting norms.
Thanks, Robin. Could you enable my screen share?
I certainly can.
So there's been a group of us who have been meeting to look at, well, 2 different groups, one looking at meeting norms and another one to look at coalition governance. And our hope for today had been to have a breakout group, but I'm thinking we're running short on time around the coalition governance. So I think what we'll do for that section, Rob, if it works, is the questions we were going to have, we'll put them in the chat along with my email address, and then I'll send it out to the listserv as well today, and then people can just get that feedback and I can share it. And so the governance subcommittee is Dana Peregrine, Lori Davenport, Rosemary Powers, Mandy Dean, and myself. And we've been trying to do some work around, what's brought people to the coalition, what are the structures that would help, and to help people enter more deeply into the work, and then what resources, both human and financial, are needed to continue that work moving forward. So we were going to have a breakout about that today, but we'll send those questions. Maybe we can do a shorter breakout next week. But our goal is really to kind of get a feel for how has the coalition evolved over time, and certainly over this last year with COVID, and then to move forward, what do we need to have in place or be aware of as we're moving forward, because things are moving so quickly. So that part will come later. And then another group has been meeting around, come on, why can't I share my screen? Still not letting me share, Rob.
Well, and I made you a co-host.
Oh, here we go. Now it's there.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No problem.
So we are a group of us really kind of pulled together by Mary Connolly, and then also Rob Hoff and Teresa Powerdudis and I have just been working on some brief meeting norms that we would like to get some feedback on. And again, I'll send this out to folks. We did a quick little breakout on the top about Zoom norms, just because that's the new reality and will be in one form or another for a while, probably. Probably the most important one there is asking folks to limit distractions by turning off your camera if you need to take another call or if you have to eat a really big bite of your sandwich. Community norms, just kind of, and we're trying to figure out what we want to do is be comprehensive, but would not be so unwieldy that it's hard to manage. So kind of the really key points in these are the bolded items. Being aware of power dynamics, the power we bring, the power we wield in a space, and how to step back and let those who might not have as much or have a different sense of that power dynamic be part of the meeting. Listening to learn, not just being able to respond. Some of the basic things, one person speaking at a time, speaking from your own experience. One that's really important for me, make space, take space. If you're someone who normally is comfortable and weighs in on everything, is to tend to step back and recognize, how am I creating space for others to share their insight, those who might need a little more time or to more encouragement. And I think Rob does a great job of kind of facilitating that process as we're moving along. Another one is just assume the best intentions and take responsibility for impact. I've heard that phrase different ways in different settings. Always assume that person is speaking from their best place and try to hear it in that way. And then at the same time for yourself is to be aware of how the words you're speaking might be landing for other people in the room. And then finally, be aware of time and agenda. And I know a lot of times in this setting now, we're doing a lot of chatting with Rob about how we might switch things around. So again, these are just proposed norms. And the goal was just to kind of share this briefly today and then to get some feedback from people. So I can send this out to folks. And if I missed anything, TP or Rob in this conversation that would be helpful. And then we can do some follow-up in the coming weeks. But it's really just to make sure we're on the, you know, how are we gathering together in a way that allows everyone to share their truth and to have the space they need in order to feel comfortable doing that. And I will stop sharing. But Rob, TP, is there anything that I'm missing, or Rob, anything I'm missing in that norms conversation?
No, I do think we have enough time that if people have some thoughts or
please.
reactions real quick, this would be a good opportunity to kind of react to the idea of some of these suggested norms.
Maybe I'll put them back up again just so people can see them if that's helpful. And I'll take notes.
And do please speak up if you do have a comment, because I can't see everybody on the
yeah.
screen right at the moment. So
I don't always see the little hand, just saying. I don't know why.
Yeah, I have that problem as well. So we'll have to do some finagling with that technology. You mean the raise hand function?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But other
yeah,
than
and part
that,
of the problem is, yeah.
it looks real good. Yeah.
Other thoughts?
This is Rosemary. I think these look good. Excuse me. One of the things I liked about seeing the Zoom norms is that sometimes it can be distracting more if people are typing or if they're on a phone, if they're working with the screen on the phone, you can see hands a lot. So that's just something to be aware of, that for people who are sort of distracted by things happening in front of them, that sometimes it can make it hard to follow conversations if that's happening on a screen. So I like that reminder being there for all of us. It's not obvious sometimes what's happening. I know on mine, sometimes I have papers rustling around my microphone and makes a terrible racket. So lots of things to pay attention to. Thanks for including that.
All right, thanks everyone. Again, if you have any other comments, please email me. And I think our hope was to kind of share it a little bit here. We'll bring it back to the steering committee next Wednesday and then bring it to a vote of the coalition next Friday. Rob, thank you for putting the questions around coalition governance in. Again, I'll send those out to the listserv for those who aren't able to grab it off of the chat right now, or for those who weren't here. And again, that's going to be an ongoing process. I should mention, we had our first ever Zoom bombing yesterday while we were having our governance coalition meeting. A couple guys from Russia came in, not pornographic, but just loud. So I think we might set up, rather than just a log on, we might set up you have to register link for that meeting, but anyone's welcome to come to those. They were very clever. They came back on and started talking in an English accent and said they were with the coalition. And then we realized they were lying and they started speaking in Russian again, and we turned them off. So.
I'm sorry, I missed that.
Yeah, it was fun. I knew you would have enjoyed it. So.
All right. So thank you, Kevin. And
I will stop sharing again.
Perfect. And do please let us know your thoughts related to Kevin's questions, the coalition's governance related questions, because it's really important that we understand what value the coalition provides for you, why you come here every week, or at least frequently, and what structures we need to have in place to make sure that these meetings can continue to deliver value for folks. So thank you for your time on that. Why don't we shift gears now, and I can turn the floor over to Janet Rumbeck to talk about the Safe Parking Network.
All right. Good morning, everyone. The Safe Parking Network is, oh, there's a question from Kira.
Yeah, I see that. Kira, go ahead.
Just one question. I know that a lot of us get really busy with meetings and stuff like that, and sometimes it's difficult to register for every single meeting. Is there a way to maybe make it a recurring meeting and then people can deny requests?
So the reason we haven't done that is because of the aforementioned Zoom bombing that has happened in the past. So it seems silly, but creating a need to register every week seems to be enough of a hurdle for most people to not sign up just for the purpose of Zoom bombing. So that's why we've approached it that way. I could certainly talk with Garrett about whether we think we could switch to having it be the same registration every week, but we don't want to. We did have early on in our Zoom times a couple of instances where people were pretty heinous during these meetings and disturbing in the way that they behaved and treated those who were in the meeting. So we really didn't want to repeat that.
That's totally understandable. And, you know, one feature I've used, because we get a lot of folks like that in the anti-trafficking movement, is even having the registrations have to be approved. Just a thought. I don't know if that's helpful or not. So.
Yeah, thank you. Teresa, I saw your hand up.
Just saying that if you have the link, permanent link on your screen, you can just click in and it really is just a one extra click. So I like that we're doing that. I've appreciated the lack of Zoom bombers.
All right, so let's shift. Thank you for that question, Kira. And it is something that we really do hate to create barriers to people attending these meetings. So we're trying to find that happy medium. So let's shift back to Janet and discussion about Safe Parking Network.
Yes, there is a lot going on. We've had a very productive meeting, or very productive week. This coming week, I'm pleased to announce our newest church is going to open their lot. That's on 56th Street. They are going to try to target or include as many folks from the LGBTQ population as possible. So if you don't know of anybody in particular that is residing in their vehicle from that population, send them to Colin or me, or just the website. There was a great meeting with the Key Pen Coalition on starting a site out there. South Hill Baptist was our first site, and it's been our most productive site. Colin was able to get one woman housed this past week from South Hill Baptist. TCC, Tacoma Community College, is in active conversation with us, including later this afternoon, and we're hoping to nudge them over the edge so that they join us real soon. And we, as a smaller subgroup of this coalition, as Safe Parking Network, have agreed to take on encampments as part of our agenda. So encampments is another well-defined population that we will include in our committees, and we meet every Monday at noon. That's it.
Thank you, Jan. And the links to the Monday meetings, are those, I can't remember if they're on the PC Homeless website as well. I'm seeing a head shake, I think, from Teresa. If not, please just share the link in the chat.
Sorry, my computer's freezing. Teresa, can you step up?
Yes. I thought that they were there. I just was going to check on that. If it isn't, let's put it there
Okay.
so that people can find it there. Okay.
Thank you.
And Kevin has been made the host of the Monday meeting. So perhaps Kevin can step up here. Julian has a question. And also Kimberly Ellison, who I don't know, safe parking was provided for one of my clients. The process was smooth. Oh, that's wonderful news. Thank you.
Yeah, Julian.
I just have a couple quick announcements. The Pierce County Accessible Community Advisory Committee voted to recently to endorse the letter that went out from the Coalition to End Homelessness. And we have our next regular session on Tuesday, May 11, 9 o'clock on Zoom. Everyone's invited. I will leave my email address in the chat. Thank you.
Thank you, Julian. So we are moving to the part of the meeting where it's just items for the good of the order to share with folks in the meeting here today. Jeffrey, I see you have your hand up.
Yes, as a matter of adding to the safe parking, 2 other churches are in conversation currently, St. Matthew's up in Browns Point and Holy Family of Jesus over on 40th in the east side. Conversations are starting up and pretty strong at this point.
Fantastic.
Rob, are you seeing Mandy Dean's hand up?
I am not. So please feel free to speak.
Rob, this is Sheila. I just wanted to let the collaboration know that tomorrow is, the coalition know that tomorrow is Collaboration for Our Cause 3.0, Star Center, 3873 South 66th Street, from noon to 3 p.m. And as Valerie said, there's a ton of resources and information. Pierce County Health Department is going to be there with home COVID testing kits on a request basis. And we will also have Pierce Transit there to discuss their new transit situation, reaching out to communities that are living in multiplex units, and getting on the bus lines and all of that. So tomorrow, 12 to 3, Star Center, 3873 South 66th Street. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheila.
My back is getting sore.
All right. So does anyone else have anything to share with the full coalition before we break off for today's meeting? All right. So thank you, everyone, for being here today. If you do get a chance, please do respond and email Kevin related to those questions about governance and the value this coalition provides to you. And if you want to hang out and help us plan the next meeting of the coalition, which would take place next Friday morning, you can stay on this call. There's a small group of us that will continue to talk about what we're considering for that agenda next week. And otherwise, I wish everybody a happy Easter weekend, happy Good Friday, and we'll see you next